Hello everyone, my name is Simpiwe and I like to talk about all things health and well-being. So for the next couple of videos, I will be chatting about my experience before pregnancy and into the first, second and third trimester, as well as postpartum and life as a mommy. So please remember before I start that just as most babies will be different, most pregnancies will be different as well. So you might be having a totally different experience to what your friend is having, and that's okay. But for now, just take what's relevant to you and enjoy your own unique, beautiful, or not so beautiful experience. And diving right into it, first question, did I plan my pregnancy? And the answer is no and yes. I wasn't actively trying to have a baby at the time, but I was also not trying to not have a baby. So when I did find out, I just needed to digest it a bit, but I was also quite happy on the other side. And how I found out was, I was actually at work and we were in a meeting or a ward round, and all of a sudden I just felt out of it. Like, I wouldn't even say it was nausea. Things started spinning and I was almost, I was just out of my body. I wasn't feeling myself and I knew something was cooking. So straight after the meeting, I ran to the nearest pharmacy, got myself a pregnancy test, but just the cheaper ones with the lines. So I tested it and I saw there was a very faded line, and not having had much experience before, I thought, I'm not pregnant. So I threw the thing away, but I continued to be sick throughout the day, and I realized I did actually miss like 2 days of my period. So when I got home, and at the time I was actually alone because my husband was away for work. So when I got home, I got one of the digital ones, and lo and behold, it said I was pregnant, and I was at about 6 weeks when I confirmed. And so it was quite a shock. Not a shock in terms of I don't want this, but just like your new reality. You're gonna be a mom. It's quite a big deal. And yeah, so I called my husband, and let me tell you, not every story is as romantic, when couples find out. So basically, I called my husband. I'm like, hey love, guess what? He's like, hey, what's happening? And I'm just like, hey, I'm pregnant. And he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm pregnant. He's like, let me call you back. Nah, I'm still busy. He's like, call me back. Like, I just told. Anyways, it was a whole thing. But I think he was also quite shocked as well, and eventually we got to talk and he was quite happy and shared the news with our family and friends. And speaking of planning, on the subject of contraception, initially I was on the oral contraceptive pill, which is a hormonal type of contraception. And unfortunately, it didn't work too well for me. I had a lot of side effects on it. For one, I bled a lot. So I bled so much even during my wedding day. And then I also had some quite bad mood swings and a lot of bloating. So when all was said and done, I decided hormonal contraception is not for me. And so I decided eventually to use the rhythm or calendar method, which I've been very happy with ever since I think early 2019 until now. And yeah, it's been good in that, one, it doesn't have any side effects, and well, except for pregnancy if you don't use it well. And then two, it really helps with getting in touch and knowing your body well, and just being aware of what's happening at all times. And speaking of staying in touch with your body, I think before falling pregnant, it's really important. It was really important for me to be able to stay healthy, because it made the actual pregnancy a lot more easier because your body does change. But if you have a pre-pregnancy body that's quite healthy, you're well hydrated, you're taking all your mineral and nutrients, and you're eating a balanced diet, and you're moving, then I think it really assists in having a smoother journey. But one of the things that I did experience since the day that I found out actually at work was the morning sickness. And it's a weird feeling because when it started, I actually didn't, recognize it as morning sickness until I tested positive. But it was just this weird feeling of lightheadedness and not being grounded, and just like, I didn't actually vomit in any event, but I did feel sick most of the 12 to 14 weeks of the first trimester, especially in the morning when I woke up and sometimes during the day. So I had to just sneak in a few naps at work just to feel okay. And also another symptom I experienced was boob tenderness or breast tenderness. Like, my breast was so painful, like even a light touch was a lot. But it also did go away. So on finding out that we were pregnant and moving forward, we made an appointment to see a gynae. So basically I initially started out with a gynae, and things changed later on, but I'll get into that in my next videos. But most gynaes will want to see you after 12 weeks or 14 weeks, so we had to wait a bit. But I did get a scan from a sonographer that's not attached to the gynae. So I got a scan at about 6 weeks when we found out, and waited until about 12 weeks until we had our first appointment with the gynae. And I think at that stage, that's when it becomes so real, because you can see the baby. Well, it looks like a tadpole initially, but you can see, you are carrying a life, and your life is going to change. And so, after the first wave of sickness and surprise and breast tenderness and whatever else you experience, into the second trimester, things do get a bit better, depending on the pregnancy. For me, I certainly felt a lot better after the first trimester. And before I go into the second trimester, I'll do that in the next video. But just some takeaways from my experience before getting pregnant and into the first trimester. I think, one, it's very important to plan so that you can get a chance to take the folic acid, because I only found out at 6 weeks, and at 6 weeks the neural tube has already formed. So it might not be that helpful to start taking folic acid, but I think I did anyways, and my iron supplements. And 2, explore contraception. Different things agree with different people, so find out what works for you and what makes you feel at your best. And 3, I think pregnancy health goes a long way, and it doesn't start when you fall pregnant. It actually starts before you get pregnant, and how your body responds to it. And I'm fortunate that I was already having a good balanced diet and hydrating well, and I moved a lot, and so the hormonal changes that took place weren't very rough on my body, I think, except for the morning sickness. But otherwise, I think you'll always benefit from staying healthy, whether you're pregnant or not. And then in terms of morning sickness, I think different things work for different people, but eating something just before you wake up really helped me, like especially carbs, like crackers or a slice of bread or something. So just before you actually rise up from your bed, just take that, and it does help a bit for the morning. And and just like snacking on carbs throughout the day. I know some people, when they fall pregnant, they just want to be healthy, be on the diet straight away. But sometimes it's really impossible when you're throwing up and feeling sick, and diet is the last thing on your mind, when you just need to stay hydrated and take in some nutrition. And then I also use ginger and lemon tea. It probably did help, but not a lot, although I did take it. But yeah, I think I felt much better after sleeping and eating something. And then taking breaks, giving yourself a break. It's great if you don't have to show up to work, but if you are at work, I think it helped me making my colleagues aware of where I was, like especially my seniors at that time, so that if I need to take a break or disappear for a while, they'd know what's going on. But otherwise, and also start as soon as you can, start having a birth plan and how you actually want your pregnancy to go, and your birth to go from day one, and make your gynae aware of that, or your midwife aware of that. So that's something that helped us a lot, and each stage that we're in just like planning of what was coming ahead, like for example how or where we were going to give birth, thinking about it. And but that's something I'm going to go into more in the next video. But for now, that's it, and we can chat more about the second and the third trimester in the next videos. And maybe I can post a Q&A in my story where you can ask me things that I didn't cover